I decided to go just straight up, right? Start from the beginning. No title card, no nothing this week. And I decided not to be too literal and too specific about my outline and my format. But I did do a card reading of this deck. This is, I don't make any money off of this, but if you like the collaborations that Alberto Violdo does with Colette Baron-Reed, then I think you'll really enjoy this deck. This is the Shaman's Dream Oracle. So today we'll be talking about Joe Dispenza, Bashar, ancient civilizations within the context of this Shaman's Dream Oracle deck. Ooh, this might be the very first episode of the Time Traveling Dream Oracle. More on that later. Let me just grab a sip of water. So, I watched episode 3 of Rewired with Dr. Joe Dispenza a couple days ago, I think. And I kind of remember thinking, yeah, right, I get it. Let's go. I'm there. I'm in. And so today when I was preparing to think about what I was going to talk about today, I was like, wait, what was that episode about? And the episode is about survival versus creation. And I want to talk about a lot of things with regard to that, survival versus creation. And I want to talk about our soul evolution. So if you don't want to listen to anything about your soul's evolution, you can just tune out now and go about your merry little day. But the very first card that came up is Covenant, Sacred Contract. And so I'm here to talk about our soul's evolution, our collective soul evolution. Oh, look at that. Sorry. This is a rhythm and flavor production, RNF. So, the covenant, the idea of the covenant. First, let me talk about what that means in shamanic energy medicine. So, there's contracts, there's oaths, there's sacred contracts. A covenant is sort of like it's a kind of sacred contract that I feel has just a bit more weight than maybe your average ordinary sacred contract. A covenant, a sacred contract of this weight is usually something you've made before you were born. Your soul has made a sacred covenant to do X or Y or Z is your purpose in this lifetime. Some people believe in that, some people don't. Some people might call it fate, some people might call it destiny. I'm not really here to dispute those things. But I will say that Daryl Anka, who's the channel for Bashar, talked about how he has come to understand that both he and Bashar had made a soul contract, an ancient contract of some sort before this time, for him to come to Earth now and be a channel for the messages that Bashar is bringing. So, and a friend of ours was over here today, and he's like, I don't believe in any of that stuff. And that's fine. You don't have to believe. I'm merely entertaining the information and entertaining it within the context of some other things that I was absorbing this week. So, first of all, back to the Joe Dispenza episode. So his episode is titled Survival versus Creation, right? And so he talks about how when we're in survival mode, which is sort of like fight or flight mode. And it's that, your nerves are frazzled and your synapses are kind of firing and you're go, go, go and you're do, do, do and you're, fear, fear, fear and you're protect, protect, protect. And So there's that response system, it can get stuck on, in humans especially. And here's the thing that was explained to us that I didn't realize. Like animals, when they are in a position of fear, they go into the fight or flight response, and they either, run or freeze or whatever. But then as soon as the threat is over, they shake it off and they go right back to whatever they were doing. And so they don't hang on to the body stressors. They're physiological body stressors. This has nothing to do with the emotions. But human beings, for some reason, don't have such an easy mechanism for shaking off the stress, despite what Taylor Swift might say. Though I do believe that dancing and shaking one's body can be very productive in terms of releasing stagnant or negative energy. So maybe there is something to literally shaking it off. But most of us don't know how to do that. Most human beings don't know how to turn off their stressor mechanisms, and so they get stuck in fight or flight. Sometimes people get stuck in fight or flight for many years. Some people spend their whole lives in fight or flight response. And so I look at a lot of the energetic medicine practices that are out there, even something as simple as massage. A really good massage that's done with care for the way energy is moving through you can be a really good energy reset. I have found acupuncture to be a really effective reset if you've been stuck in one of those modes for a while. But the thing is, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, when you are stuck in fight or flight mode, when you are stuck in survival mode, when you are stuck in fear mode, you cannot be in creation mode. You cannot be in co-creation mode. And I believe very strongly that certainly at least my soul contract, but I would bet you dollars to donuts that a lot of ancient soul contracts are coming due that are here to remind us that our goal as a species is to care for one another and the planet. So I'm, getting about as on board as that as I can, and I'm inviting everyone to get on board with that. Even if it's not your soul contract, even if it's not some sacred ancient covenant you have made, I would ask all of you, I would invite you to pose the question. What is the sacred contract that I came with when I was born on this planet? What did I swear to my ancestors that I would do? What did I promise to do? So there's lots of people out there that will tell you that having a purpose-based life is one very clear pathway towards having a fully satisfying life, having a life that gives you the kinds of freedoms where you can be in co-creation mode, where you can create something beautiful, where you can create a reality for yourself and your community and for the planet that is pleasing and sustainable. So I'm going to take a pause button because I'm going to go in a really, really different direction, and it's maybe a very weird direction because it's going to look at some very ancient mythologies and see how some of the gods may have actually been visitors from other planets or other galaxies or other dimensions or other something other than earthly. And there's actually, I heard two different theories presented. I don't remember if it was on the same episode of the same show. It might have been one on ancient civilizations and one on another show. It might have been the other one on the Bashar show. There's the theory that alien beings came to this planet. They were seeking minerals that we had that were going to help them in their environment. It was going to be a lot of work for them to get the minerals they needed, so they needed a labor force, so they genetically engineered with beings on this planet already to create essentially slaves. And so there was an ethical violation there, right? And however, the priestesses and the one who were in charge of the genetic engineering felt compelled to also share the secrets of self-liberation within us. A lot of these programs are talking about our DNA, and they're talking about what our genetics are, and they're talking about our capacity to tap into what some have called junk DNA. And so the theory that, one, either we were genetically engineered, we're a hybrid species, but there was another one that one of the other episodes said that there was some event, some cosmic event, some stellar event, some perhaps a meteor or a shard from exploding planet or something that had DNA from another planet. When it crashed into Earth, the seeds of that DNA were planted and then eventually intermingled with whatever species were here on this planet. So there's the purposeful, I did it on purpose genetic engineering, or there's the just sort of like it naturally happened through this cosmic event. Either way, the mythology that came out of, I believe it is the Sumerian text, the Sumerian translations, talks about these Anunnaki, these gods that came from the sky, and these sort of lizard people or fish people. And there are, lots of talk among these archaeologists that this was the alien race that brought civilization to the beings that were on this planet at the time, which was, basically we were quote-unquote cavemen, right? So here's the thing that I find really fascinating and also a bit eerie and maybe slightly fucked up. The fact that our very inception as a species was into an enslaved status, to me, indicates that our highest soul evolution is to be free from all bondage of any kind. So the path to our soul's evolution is the path to liberation. And all of these ancient traditions, up to and including Bob Marley, have said, free your mind and the rest will follow. Well, no. Free yourself from mental slavery, which is the heart of it. That's the heart of it. That's the heart of it, freeing ourselves from mental slavery. So now it's going to get also weird again. When Bashar was talking about the history of these species, what he was describing as the most evolved version of Homo erectus, because Homo erectus went on evolving, right, is the thing that we would consider to be Bigfoot or Yeti or any of those sort of figures. But here's the thing that he said, that as a species, they have the ability to do. This was fascinating to me. As a species, they have the ability to sort of slip in and out of basically the fabric of reality. So, like, they can be in another dimension and not be visible to other beings in the area, which would explain why they're so hard to find, they're so hard to spot, blah, blah, blah. But that whole concept of being able to slip in and out of a dimensional portal, slip in and out of reality, slip in and out of, whatever you want to call it, reminded me a whole lot of a story that we were told. Actually, I think we probably read it in one of his books in our training with the Four Winds Society, of I want to say it was Alberto's master, or not his master, but his teacher, his mentor. Wow, how weird. Freudian slip that I used the word master. That when his mentor knew he was going to be dying, they went up to one of the sacred mountains, and he just walked into this sort of like portal in the stone and disappeared. And he talks about this idea of our whole journey is to learn how to die consciously. And if that's true, if we can reach the point where we are so in harmony with the earth, with the reality, with our community, with the beings, with the planet, with the universe, with the cosmos, whatever you want to call it, that we can step into infinity without having to go through death, that's pretty rad. I'm gonna set my sights on that. I'm gonna keep that as a goal for me. So it's a journey, right? It's a journey. It's always a journey. It's an ongoing journey. So think about what your sacred covenant was before you came into this life. Because the next card, the next card is not so pretty. The next card is the horned cactus. Oops, where am I going? Here we go. The horned cactus is resourcefulness. And, I'm about to go to the desert, right? I'm leaving on a plane on Monday to go to my home state of Arizona for a couple of weeks. And so I'm very aware of what the desert is as both a real place and as a metaphor. And, one of the things that's so kind of amazing about cacti, if you will, is that they're so full of juicy liquid that you can prevent yourself from dehydrating if you find one. But the problem is you have to get past their needles, their spines, right? You have to have a way to get to it. And so the card is really about okay, we face pain. We all face pain. We all face pain in life. We all face pain and suffering and loss. And we find a way through. We find a way through, and we find our resilience, because there is only one way through, and that's through, right? So I look at what's happening right now to humanity, especially also considering that other program that I've been watching, The Dead Files, where I've been seeing evidence of how violence against people has ramifications that go well beyond the lives of those people that were involved in the violence. And when we again hear from many traditions that it is our obligation as a human species to heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward, 7 generations back is before the United States was even a country. So we've got a lot of genocide and enslavement on our hands that we need to account for. And whatever it is that we need to learn from that, we better get on board with learning the lesson of it pretty quickly. And I just want to look and see if there's any messages from this card that I'm forgetting. And again, this is the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck. So, the horned cactus and resourcefulness. Oh, if any of you have been in a bit of a drought recently, the message is that water is available for you. It's probably going to show up in a surprising place, but just look around, ask. There should be some relief coming soon. And it is also a reminder that sometimes when we think we are in the worst situation ever, we actually have more resources at hand than we may imagine at first. Because that's really what it takes. It takes our imagination. And, there's been so much going on in the world, right, that a lot of people are really justifiably still living in fight or flight. Some people don't even have a home, right? They've either been displaced by war or their houses burned down, right? But when we find community, when we find each other, because that's where we get to the last card. Okay. The last card is the Fool's Embrace. The Fool's Embrace is transmuting pain. And the Fool's Embrace, to me, the way I'm interpreting what the card said in a kind of a different way, the Fool's Embrace to me is that moment, sorry about that, that moment when something just really awful, terrible, unspeakable, whatever has happened, and you're just at a loss and not even sure what to do about anything. And someone that cares about you approaches and just gives you a hug. They just give you a hug, and you recognize that despite all the bullshit, that despite all the fuckery, we were here for each other. We have community, we have people who help us out. And that is reassuring. No matter where on the spectrum of pain you find yourself now, whether it be mild disappointment or searing loss, it's time to make peace with it. Befriend it rather than resisting it, running from it, or judging it as bad or unfair or hostile. Surrender to the Fool's Embrace, allowing the truth to envelop you in love and compassion. What if you could learn something amazing from this? And I want to sort of kind of close with this idea of truth. Because one of the things that I learned about my own lineage through some ancestral healing was that somewhere in my background, there is a tribe of people in Europe that they had some affiliation with ravens. So either they were raven worshippers or they had some sort of raven animal connection. And what the ravens teach us is the ability to find our own truth, the highest truth. And when you look at the world and you look at how hard people are trying to keep us stressed out and disconnected because we are easier to control that way. We are much easier to control when we are constantly in stressed out fight or flight mode. But when we give ourselves permission to take the time we need, to be human, to meditate, to do whatever it is that keeps us in creation mode and not in survival mode, that's when we have freed ourselves from the bonds of oppression. That's when we have reached self-liberation. That is our soul's evolution, and it is rooted in our care for each other and our communities and this big blue marble that we sit on. So that'll be the message for this week. By the time this goes, I think I'll be in Arizona, so I'll try not to get pricked from any horned cactus, and I hope that you have a beautiful week. Cheers.